Welcome back, everyone. It's time I dive back into the realm of lost media once again. I got a lot of strange stuff to discuss. A lost film, video game, book, a lot of stuff to discuss tonight, so let's not waste any more time. I'm your host, Mr.Bones, and this is Lost Media Limbo, Volume 6. You like my new look? I used to be a huge fan of Captain Underpants. It's a series that defined my childhood and sense of humor in ways I can't begin to explain. Dave Pilkey has written some of the most creative and entertaining children's books that have shaped my generation as a whole. With that being said, there actually is quite a lot of Captain Underpants lost media that not a lot of folks are aware of. The more well-known cases are back before the 2016 film was released. There were plans to develop a Captain Underpants movie since the original novel all the way back in 1997. According to the LA Times, quote, Hollywood had been courting the 51-year-old Pilkey ever since Captain Underpants had made his literary debut in 1997. As the series continued, eventually it was going to sell on more than 70 million copies worldwide, and that interest only intensified. A TV series, video games, animated series, and live-action movies, Pilkey was pitched in every conceivable way to cash in on his creation. But for years, he resisted. I had this agent who basically just said no to everything, he says. I was so focused on the books, I had these characters in this storyline that I loved. And I really wanted to make sure I told all the stories I could before I was ready to just let it go. The live-action film honestly interests me the most. You know, out of all of the live-action adaptations you could do with, well, Captain Underpants, making something live action just kind of throws me off, man. The concept alone feels like it's something that can really only work within the realm of cartoons. I mean, just look at this. Although, however, it had been rumored that Chris Farley would have been played the role of Captain Underpants or Mr. Krupp, and that does kind of sell me on the idea. Unfortunately, though, and as we all know, Farley sadly passed away in 1997, so the plans for the film were scrapped, and Dave sat on the rights until the time was right. And I'm glad he did, though, because I feel like DreamWorks was the perfect studio to make the film. Movie stuff aside, there's something even more interesting than seeing Farley in his undies. Let's hop in our time-traveling porta-potties all the way back to the late 1980s, back to the Ohio Kent State University. This is where Dave first attended college, and this is also where he started publishing his very own books, and that he self-printed himself. One of these comics was the original concept that he created for Captain Underpants, titled The Really Cool Adventures of Captain Underpants. David actually sold these for about 10 cents a pop, and half the profits were given to Goodwill. Pilkey being based as always, I see. All of this information comes from a Redditor by the name of The Abiding Times, claiming to be one of the very few folks that actually bought a copy of a Pilkey back when he was still in college. They had no idea how rare this was. Let's take a look at this Reddit post from The Abiding Times. It was posted on r/Captain Underpants. Of course it was, and it states the following, quote, I own the very first version of Captain Underpants that Dave ever produced while at Kent State. He zeroed it and hand-stapled the thing, and then sold it at a few local stores to raise money for charity. Does anyone have any idea what something like this is worth? And here it is, ladies and gentlemen, in all of its glory, I guess. This really does look like something that Dave just made by himself, handmade. He drew everything out, and then he scanned everything. I guess he laminated it, and then he stapled it, and then he sold it for 10 cents. That's pretty incredible. I can't believe one of the holy grails of children's literature lost media was literally being sold at the time for like 10 cents. That is incredible. The Really Cool Adventures of Captain Underpants is something that I really wish gets found because I want to see what it is. You know, my biggest question in this whole mystery isn't if, you know, even if there's still any copies around, I'm sure there is, but it's mainly just, what is this? Is this like the original 1997 novel about this mean old principal that gets hypnotized by two fourth graders named George and Harold and turn him into their comic book superhero? Or is this just Captain Underpants, the superhero? And you're probably thinking, well, does the Abiding Times maybe scan this somewhere? I looked on WorthPoint and it's confirmed he sold it. I'm very disappointed that he did. I can't find the price or how much he did sell it for, but he probably made a lot of money that day. And unfortunately, until we can find someone who has a copy of this thing, it's going to remain a mystery. And before you guys ask, why don't you just message Dave Pilkey? Maybe he knows where it is. Well, that's just the thing, goofy goobers. You see, you can't contact Dave Pilkey because his contact is pretty much nowhere online, and that is not an open invitation to try to reach out and contact him and ask him about this thing. Now, I won't lie, there is a very good chance that Dave has this, but at the same time, I feel like if a bunch of people asked him to release it, I don't really think he will. Maybe he'll add this as like a bonus feature to a later Captain Underpants re-release, who knows. But until then, and until we can get more information about this comic, or if we can find someone that potentially has a copy floating around somewhere in their house, the Really Cool Adventures of Captain Underpants will remain a mystery.
Hey, paisanos, it's the Super Mario Brothers Super Show!
I think we can all agree that that new Mario film that just came out this year was a certified banger. I mean, it sure as hell was better than that rank-ass Super Mario Bros. Film from the 90s. You know which one I'm talking about, okay?
Monkey!
I bet you wish I didn't. But what if I told you that we may have not even gotten that steaming pile of goat shit in the first place? In fact, we could have gotten a fully animated Mario film. According to the LA Times, Deke Entertainment was originally planning to make a Mario film 3 years before the Light Studios film was released. Quote, Nintendo, the maker of popular video games, is about to gobble up another audience in movie houses. Deke Enterprises will produce a full-length animated feature film based on the characters of Nintendo's Super Mario Bros. Game. Comedy-based drama is planned for a summer 1990 release. Deke is also producing a Super Mario Bros. Super Show animated series for first-run TV syndication, in addition to the already announced Saturday morning series for NBC. It honestly blows my mind that this was even considered. Why didn't Nintendo go with an animated film instead of live action? It could have been way cheaper to make, and overall would have aged a million times better. Look, I know the Super Show doesn't have the biggest budget, okay, but if the studio was given the proper funds, I'm sure we would have gotten something truly magical. Instead, all we got was this.
Diddy Kong!
Moving on from another canned Mario flick that never happened was one that was actually going to be developed at Sony. Believe it or not, we know this due to the infamous Sony hack of 2014. That whole can of worms is another story, but pretty much, Sony's emails were leaked to the general public, and one of those emails from one of the Sony higher-ups was over them sealing the deal about getting a Mario film made. Quote, following the November 2014 hack of Sony Pictures, emails between Avi Arad, studio chief Amy Pascal, TriStar Pictures head Tom Rothman, and Sony Pictures animation president of production Michelle Ramo were released, revealing that Sony had been attempting to secure the rights to the Mario franchise for several years. Arad visited Nintendo in Tokyo in February and July of 2014 in an attempt to secure a deal. In October, Arad emailed Pascal. Pascal suggested recruiting Sony Pictures Animation Hotel Transylvania director Gendy Tarkovsky to help develop the project, while she said she could think of 3 to 4 movies right out the gate and hoped to build a Mario empire. However, after the emails leaked, Arad denied that the deal had been made, stating that negotiations had, quote, only begun. BuzzFeed News also noted that the emails did not take into account of potential conflicts with Sony Pictures' corporate sibling, Sony Interactive Entertainment, one of Nintendo's chief competitors. Okay, so I find this project even more nuttier than the Dick one. I mean, imagine Gendy making this. I mean, I'm not even entirely sure if he is a fan of Mario, but I know regardless, he would have made something totally whack. And I'm sure Nintendo probably wouldn't have been okay with him making something as far out as Hotel T, but just imagine what we could have had. Damn, we had been robbed! And that's pretty much all of the scrapped Mario films I could dig up online. You know, you think with Mario being the franchise it is, there would have been like tons upon tons of documented pitches to Nintendo trying to get this shit made into a movie or TV shows, you know? But I'm sure anything we don't already know publicly has already happened behind closed doors. I guarantee Nintendo is really good at keeping things under wraps. And honestly, I'm glad that we got the film we got, and looking at the concept art, it makes me a little miffed. Apparently we would have gotten a full-on Luigi's Mansion scene. Damn it, Nintendo! Give me Charlie Day Mansion! And James Woods is King Boo, maybe. Christopher Lloyd is EGAT, I feel like that one's a no-brainer. James Woods is King Boo, I mean, and until we can find more information about those 2 other scrap Mario films or projects or whatever, and who knows, maybe we can find more information on other canceled Mario flicks, but until we do, the Deke Entertainment Mario film and the Sony Pictures film will both remain mysteries.
Or is it the bagel?
Okay, I can almost promise you guys haven't heard of this one before. Allow me to introduce you to the point-and-click adventure that never was, Corey's Adventure. Now you're probably thinking to yourself, what the is this? Well, no one really knows. I found out about this little title after I was doing some research on adventure games for a game project of my own. I just randomly thought to myself, hey, what if there's some like lost adventure games? Perhaps I could talk about them on the channel. Granted, I know I did that for Sam & Max, but let's be real, Sam & Max is not a game, it's a masterpiece, okay? Anyways, back to this lost gem. Curly's Adventure was to be a point-and-click adventure game on PC developed by Salem Entertainment, and it was set to be published by Epic Games. Yeah, that Epic Games. Taking note of the Lost Media Wiki article, the plot goes as follows. Quote, the plot would have involved Curly, a short, bearded, bespectacled, snarky man who is trapped inside a huge mental asylum with many delusional patients who are allowed to live their fantasies in an environment that reconstitutes them in real life. However, it is being led by a mad scientist who operates under a sinister, megalomaniac, monocle-wearing villain who has plans for his own purpose. It was originally designed for MS-DOS by Salem Entertainment, but unfortunately development was shifted to Windows 95, and there it was sadly axed altogether, as Epic Games began to lose faith in the project entirely and just pulled the plug on it altogether. All that's left of the game are some screenshots and a short demo archived off the game's original website. And after scrubbing through the demo myself, which you can't do yourself, you can play this, link in the description if you actually want to play this yourself, and while I do think the plot has a lot of charm, and while the demo is a very early representation of what the game could have potentially been, I can see why Epic wasn't too jazzed with it. Curly's character and design it isn't the most appealing thing for a protagonist. He looks like every male Redditor put together. He honestly looks like a prototype Alex from that Yick game, if anyone knows what I'm talking about. I'm getting super off topic here, but the point I'm trying to make is despite the game going through development hell for 4 years, it just unfortunately wasn't working out and thus was scrapped. But that's just it. I was reading through this article and it had the cogs turning in my dusty head. You know, it got me thinking, if this game was in development for over 4 years, surely, Curly, there's more information about this game, right? There's more to this game than that was shown in the demo, right? I mean, like, you never visit the saloon, or the pirate ship, or any other shit shown in the screenshots. There has to be more to this game out there. Thus, my quest began. Oh yeah, so I was gonna have like a full-on animated segment here where I was like sifting through, you know, information and research about this game, kind of like a montage, but ran out of time. Gotta get this video out, so maybe next time. But yeah, that's about it. Okay, so to kind of throw a monkey wrench in that little gag, I didn't really find much, if I'm being honest. If there's one thing you gotta know about me, I suck ass at finding information regarding the lost media. I'm just not a good investigator. I'm just a goofy YouTuber. I like doing research, and I like talking about shit on the internet. So my attempts of getting this thing uncovered was kind of shit, but at the same time, I got a lot of questions answered, so let's go ahead and get into all of that. So to start things off, my first thing was I knew that there were a couple of names involved with the project already that I could research and potentially contact them, so I did just that. One of which was one of the designers of the game. I'm not going to say his name or any of the names featured in this video, so this guy uploaded a trailer to Curly's Adventure on his dead YouTube channel, and I figured, well, it's a dead YouTube channel, he probably won't respond to me, but what the hell, I'll give it a shot. I went on the trailer, which I'll go ahead and show you now. Anyway, so I watched this trailer and I was like, okay, so clearly in the description, it says that he's very passionate about the project, they put a lot of effort into it, but unfortunately it just never happened. So maybe I could potentially get in contact with this individual and interview them. So I put a comment down below. I didn't even really think he was going to read it, but I was just like, hey, I've been looking into this. I'm a huge like point-and-click adventure game fan. I want to know if you'd be interested in being interviewed so I can learn more about this game. And that's pretty much it. I go to bed the next morning and I wake up to check the comment and it's gone. It's nowhere. And I was like confused. I thought, well, maybe I didn't send it, but I know I did because I edited the comment. I edited it because I messed up some like punctuation. So that deleted it. So my question was, why did he? You got a prejudice against skeletons, man? You got a prejudice against cartoon purple skeletons? So I let Seeker of the Lost know about this because he was also kind of in the loop with this game as well. I was talking to him about it, and he was also really confused. So he also sent a comment down below, and the comment is still there. He didn't delete Seeker's comment, which pretty much asks the same thing that my comment had. What the f? But you know what? It didn't matter. There's a ton of other people I can ask to be interviewed. It's not that big of a deal. So I kept digging. And I ended up finding an artist, thanks to GabLab. I didn't find him, Gab did. Gab found someone that was like an artist on Curly's Adventure, and he sent their information to me, and I sent them a message. But as of the recording of this video, I have not heard back from this guy, so chances are either he read my message, didn't give a shit, or just didn't even see it, so who knows. I was beginning to lose hope because the more I looked into this, the more I just came to the realization of, I don't think I'm gonna get anything found. But luckily, by some stroke of just luck, I can only chalk it up to a stroke of luck, I ended up finding the creator of Curly himself on Twitter, just briefly mentioning it to some random guy a couple of days before I even started my investigation in the first place, and it blew my mind. I was like, how did I find this guy? Again, not gonna say his name because I don't want anyone to reach him, but I went ahead, I found out that his DMs were open on Twitter. I'm like, okay, I'm gonna send this guy a message and see if he gets back to me. Believe it or not, he did, and I stated the following. Hello, mister.
Name and address withheld.
My name is Marcus. I'm a huge adventure game fan, and I've recently taken interest in Curly's Adventure, a point-and-click adventure game that sadly never saw the light of day, and I've been searching for a few developers who worked on the project that would be interested in answering a few questions regarding it. Would you mind if I asked you a few? Any help is appreciated. Thanks. Marcus.
Sure, I left about a year, but I'll help in any way I can.
Awesome. Can you tell me a little bit about the game? What was your position in it?
I started the team and came up with the overall concept, was the original art director, producer, etc. The goal was to make a LucasArts type game, Day of the Tentacle or Maniac Mansion of sorts.
Oh, so you're the creator of Curly. That's really cool.
I came up with the concept. Dave knew a kid that went to school named Mike Curly. He thought he would make a great game character, so he based him off of Dave's friend. It was my idea to put him in an asylum and make it a point-and-click adventure.
How come the project never happened? This sounds incredible.
Long story. Many threads, but the main group of devs continued to keep it alive as long as they could.
Oh, I understand. Point-and-clicks really are a lost art nowadays. Such a shame that this can never see the light of day. Think you'll ever return to the idea?
It never occurred to me, to be honest, and not really mine to even try, really. Maybe some fans of those games could pick it up and revive.
And that's pretty much where the conversation ended. He just stopped responding to me. I know it doesn't really answer a lot of questions other than he is the creator of it and he was the lead art direction / producer, but yeah, that kind of still leaves a bunch of answers unquestioned. For one, where did those screenshots originate from? Clearly there is some build of this game that has those. Who knows where this thing is? It is a complete mystery, and that is why I am so infatuated with this case of lost media. There is so much just strange mystery behind it, and also, there was something that happened behind the scenes and caused the game to be delayed for so long. I just don't know what that is, and that's another question that's been left unanswered, as well as, who the hell uploaded that demo on Internet Archive? Was it one of the developers? If so, do they have more from it? But until we can get more information on Curly's adventure and potentially, who knows, get most of the game uncovered, it will remain a mystery. I'm sure Doug TenNapel needs no introduction on this channel. I've discussed his work numerous times, such as Earthworm Jim. However, there is actually another piece of lost media that Doug has his name attached to, specifically the 1997-2000 feature film, Mothman. Doug wanted to make a comedy horror featuring the iconic cryptid. Let me read the plot synopsis off the Lost Media Wiki, and it goes as follows. Quote, the film follows Ellis Gladstone, Ed Schofield, an aspiring animator living in the small town of Point Pleasant, West Virginia. With his work continually rejected by Disney, Gladstone spends most of his time looking for an abandoned apartment complex that his father inherited. In the midst of this dejection, he suddenly encounters a tall birdman simply known as the Mothman, a creature that has not been seen by the town for over 30 years. No one believes Gladstone's sightings, and he becomes an outcast instantly. With the help of Old Man Hudson, John Frederick Jones, who claims to have seen the Mothman back in the day, Gladstone has to prove that the creature really exists. Things take a turn for the worse, however, when he gets stalked by Agent Fulmer, Doug Langdale, a man in black on the hunt for the Mothman, but for a much darker purpose. To the shock of absolutely no one, this plot sounds pretty baller. The race to see who can catch the Mothman first is such a fun idea for a movie, and it's a damn shame it never happened. One thing that I'd like to mention though, is the cast itself. Ellis Gladstone was to be played by Ed Schofield, who was an animator on Earthworm Jim and The Neverhood, believe it or not, both creations of TenNapel. Agent Fulmer was to also be played by Doug Langdale, an old friend of Doug's who helped produce Cat Scratch and Earthworm Jim, the animated series. It's interesting to see that the majority of the cast was simply just old friends of Doug, doing a few favors for him and working together on one big project. Another big thing I'd like to mention is that other than the plot featured on the Lost Media Wiki, there's also an old trailer of an early cut of the film from 1999 on YouTube. Take a look for yourself. Now, I'm gonna be completely honest with you guys. This is just an unscripted moment. I think I made a bit of a mistake researching this. Let me explain. So, Doug follows me on Twitter, which means that his DMs were open for me to reach out to him. I figured since I had a means of reaching out, I should just ask him directly about this, you know? I knew about this in the past, but it wasn't until I watched Blame It on Jorge's video on Lost Films that it just kind of sparked the memory back, so I figured, oh, why don't I just contact Doug directly and see if he could release this online? So I did. Hey Doug, I've been trying to do some research on your scrapped Mothman film for a video, and I wanted to ask you a few questions regarding it, if that's okay. That's all I put, and I was hoping to hear back from him, but as you can already see, he's already seen it, which tells me he doesn't really want to talk about it. And this does make the search a million times more complicated, but get this, to only make the situation even worse, when I went to watch the Mothman trailer on YouTube, I saw this first comment listed, quote,
"I know, man, it's a very curious subject. I'm a longtime fan of Doug, and I love when he does stuff about cryptozoology, but the general public knows virtually nothing about this move. On Doug's website it says, if you see Doug in person, never ask about this film, he is in therapy over it. Whether that's a joke or not is beyond me, but it certainly raises eyebrows."
Shit. Well, now I feel like an asshole just for asking. Just wonderful. I don't know if we'll ever see this film, guys. As much as I want to say Doug has more information on it, I highly doubt he's going to say anything regarding it anytime soon, so until that does happen, and until we can get more information and potentially new footage from this film, Doug TenNaples' Mothman will remain a mystery. Stupid Mothman, you made me look like an asshole.